faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
Now you might not believe it, but especially if this is the only format that you know me from, but I'm actually not always as docile and even keel as you see me right here. Sometimes I get passionate about the things that I believe. I speak passionately, I behave passionately, I get a little fired up, sometimes. And when I get a little fired up, some people take that as too much. I loved Jafar in Aladdin when they said, you know, sometimes you gotta just calm down a little bit. And he said, yeah, wait till they get a load of me. Well, most of what you see right here is not a load of me. This is me in slow gear. This is me calmed down. This is me tamed. That hasn't always been the case. And today I'm going to share a story with you about a time when I realized how much my attitude impacted the entire work environment. And when I learned the lesson that great leaders deal in hope and encouragement. I'm going to share that with you in this episode of Leading Leaders. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and there was a day that I took a job in San Antonio, Texas. Now, the guy who hired me, to be perfectly honest with you, is probably equally passionate about life as I am, about the beliefs that we hold as I am. In fact, it was one of the reasons that he brought me on board in the first place, because he was a client first and then hired me to come on board, not just as someone serving him, but as an employee of the team. Well, several months into that, we had an executive meeting, and there were several of us around the table, 8 or 10 of us around the table. We were discussing ideas about how to take our new venture forward. We had massive investment from financial backers. We had some real heavy hitters at the table as far as what we were capable of and what we were ready to accomplish. We also had a lot of ideologues amongst us, and some great ideas and some new ideas. And not to say they weren't great, they were just, never done it that way before. What happens if we do? And I have always been very passionate about my own ideas. In fact, from the time that I was in my 20s, I would always say, I'll give you 1,000 ideas. Maybe not all 1,000 of them are useful. In fact, maybe, 10 are brand new, brilliant ideas you've never thought of before, but if you implement them, they could be worth millions. The rest of them, just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But in all of those ideas, I own them. I hold them very close to my heart. They mean the world to me. I want everyone to see them as valuable. I think that's true of everybody, especially when you have what you believe to be an absolutely original idea. You want to get credit for it. You want people to know it was your idea. You want to see it implemented and come to fruition, and you want the world to go, wow, that was awesome. I'm the same way. And so in this executive meeting, I shared my ideas, and I stood behind my ideas, and I always reserve the right to be wrong, and I'm correctable. If you find that what I've come up with is a bad idea and it won't work, just tell me why. And I will always change course with good evidence. But I don't always change course over opinions. And so in this particular meeting, my opinion, my ideas, my notions were lambasted by someone else's opinion, with no facts, no data, just an opinion. And I said, just prove to me that I'm wrong, and I'll be glad to change course. And they couldn't. And the louder they got, the louder I got, and the more intent they got, the more intent I got, and this continued until the meeting was called off. It was not a good moment. And so I was called into the executive office, and someone actually said, I feel intimidated by him. I felt like he was going to physically threaten me and crawl across the table and injure me. And in that moment, my intensity became a thing of a negative connotation to a grand degree. And I felt like my job might be on the line, my opportunity to participate in this new venture might be on the line, and I was asked to dial it back. And so I shifted gears into docile mode. And for the next several days, I came in, I made my coffee, I went to my desk, I did my thing, I didn't say anything to anybody, I didn't do anything that might offend anybody, I didn't want to cross any lines, I just wanted to keep my job and do my part. And that was it. And I did. And about 10 days into that, I was called into the executive office again. And I thought, surely this has festered to such a degree that there's no way to fix it. I can't do anything about it. I should probably prepare my wife for the inevitable. As I walked into the executive office, I was met by the same senior team. And one of them asked me, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? You told me to calm down. You told me to dial it back. You told me not to have so much conversation, not to be so intense. That's what I'm doing. I'm just staying out of the way, staying under the radar. I'm just trying to get my work done. And the comment that came back was, do you not have any idea how much your presence impacts everybody in this workplace? I'm like, I'm just trying to do my job. You told me not to be intrusive, so I'm trying not to be intrusive. He said, I had no idea. But he said, there are rumors that we're all going to die, basically. That the whole company is going to shut down, that we're all going away, that we're all going to lose our jobs because you have lost your zeal. I said, I haven't lost my zeal. He said, no, but everybody in the company, aside from the executive team who knows what happened and why, everybody in the company thinks because you have dialed it back that we're on some death slide or something. They need your energy. They need your encouragement. They need your hope. They need your sense of life. They need your zeal. They need your passion. Your passion carries a lot of weight in this organization. They need that back. So which is it you want me to do? Do you want me to be me? Or do you want me to be some house cat sitting on the shelf just doing what I'm supposed to do and nothing else? He said, I need somewhere between the tiger and the house cat. See, I have this little book. I've been reading this for years. This particular one, I don't even have dates, which is unusual for me. I don't have dates in the notes from when I was reading it. But this is Mentoring 101 by my mentor, John Maxwell. And he talks about the idea of holding hope high. He says hope is one of the greatest gifts mentors can give to those around. Its power should never be underestimated. It takes a great leader to give hope to people when they can't find it in themselves. Winston Churchill recognized the value of hope. He was the Prime Minister of England in World War II. You might remember that. He was quoted as saying, it was what England's greatest weapon has always been. Hope. And here's why. People will continue working, struggling, and trying if they have hope, because hope lifts morale. Hope improves self-image. Hope re-energizes people. Hope raises their expectations. It is the leader's job to hold hope high and to instill hope in the people he leads. Our people will only have hope if we give it to them. And we will have hope to give if we maintain the right attitude. Now, I never thought in my early 20s that my attitude was that infectious, that my belief in myself and my positive attitude toward the future, that my sense of hope would be that infectious, that it would be that contagious, that it would have that much impact on anybody else. I look back 30 years later now and I realize the attitude that you have is more contagious than the common cold. We've discussed that on this program a dozen times or more. But if the attitude of hope is not the one you bring into the workplace, is not the one that you share with the people you care about, if hope is not what they can expect to get from you, what is? Better question. If hope is not what they get from you, where do you expect them to get it? See, as a leader, they're counting on you for that. John Wooden said, I used to tell my teams that if they make a great shot, that right after they make that shot, they should smile, maybe wink, just give a nod, give a thank you to whoever passed you the ball, because you know you couldn't have made the shot if they hadn't passed you the ball. And one of the shooters looked back and he said, well, what if they're not looking? And he said, oh, trust me, they're always looking. Why? Because everybody needs, craves, wants encouragement. Another thing John Maxwell says in this great little tiny little book, if you don't have any of these tiny little 101 books, and I'm telling you, find them anywhere you can, half-price books, whatever else, get your hands on these tiny little books. But he talks about encouragement. He says too many leaders expect their people to encourage themselves. Have you ever tried that? You ever tried to encourage them yourself? But most people require an outside encouragement to propel them forward. George Adams found encouragement to be so vital to a person's existence that he called it the oxygen to the soul. Encouragement helps them reach their potential. It empowers them to give, and empowers them by giving them energy to continue when they make mistakes. Use lots of positive reinforcement with your people. Don't take acceptable work for granted. Thank people for it. Praise a person every time you see improvement. Personalize your encouragement, and remember that what motivates one person might leave another cold. I used to do a program called The Power of PDA, not public displays of affection, but public displays of appreciation. And the point of public displays of appreciation is encouragement. It's to acknowledge, to personalize, to point out to someone, listen, Judy did a phenomenal job with that report she just completed, and Tom gave probably the best presentation explaining our new financial position of anybody I've ever seen. And those little bits of praise, those little bits of, I noticed you doing what you do well, is not only encouraging to the person who received it, it lifts them up in the eyes of their peers. It gives them a little more ground to stand on it. It encourages hope within them. It encourages them to do what they just did even better next time. How could you possibly go wrong with that? But it also encourages everyone around them, because attitude is so infectious. It encourages other people to say, well, if they can get public accolades for that, why don't I? What do I need to do in my job? What position do I need to enhance myself in? What more could I learn? What more could I do to perform, to behave, to be recognized, to be seen? Not just for the job promotion, not just for the next pay raise, all those are awesome, but also to say, how can I be a better contributor? What would I need to do for the leadership to look at me and go, great job. Thank you for what you've contributed to this organization. See, every time you encourage one person, you give them the accolades and the praise and the thank you and express your gratitude to them, the person next to them notices that. Many times, they'll look for their contribution in that success to say, I was part of that too. And a good leader will say, it wasn't just me, it was my team, and I couldn't have done it without them. And when possible, call them by name. Point out how they contributed to that success. And this is how that encouragement becomes contagious. This is how that encouragement begins to spread through the organization. And that, my friends, will lift hope. And that hope will give you an advantage over any obstacle that you're coming up against. Great leaders are dealers in both hope and encouragement, and they know how to do that. Now, one word of caution. My wife is a very quiet person. My wife does not always like the public attention. She likes the praise, she likes the acknowledgement, but she'd rather it be one-on-one, behind closed doors. And everybody has a different way of receiving that encouragement. Some want it in the public. Some want everybody to recognize what they've accomplished. Others want it privately. They'd rather get an email that they can print out and hold in an envelope than to get a plaque that they put on the wall or a trophy that goes on the bookshelf behind them. Everybody has a different way of receiving that. Some people call it their love language, how they receive affirmation and encouragement. And if you'll use those techniques, you'll find that you have an entirely different way of interacting with your team. But that, like this little book talks about as well, requires time. Time invested by the leader to get to know the people on the team, to get to know who the leaders are that you're developing, so that you can invest in them the way they want to be invested in, so you can speak to them in the language that most motivates them. Not everybody's the same. And if you know what encourages them and what turns them cold, then you can appreciate them, you can encourage them, you can give hope to them in a way that will most deeply resonate with them, with their personality style, with their character, with the job they do. Now, you know as well as I do, as a good leader, there's a massive personality profile difference between a great accountant and a great salesperson. They usually are not the same. Nothing wrong with that. But it is a matter of acknowledging that those massive personality and character differences are all throughout your organization. The person who can put their head down and process code necessary to write your greatest database algorithms, probably not the same person that will stand up at lunch and give a toast without any preparation whatsoever. That's probably going to be your best salesperson or your best presenter who's out in front of investors on a regular basis, because that's the personality profile. To ask that person writing code, managing databases, producing detailed products in the background, to ask them to stand up at lunch and give a thank you speech may not go over so well. In fact, it might be to them humiliating. That's discouraging. That removes hope, or darkens it at least. That's the strategy that the leader needs to understand about character and personality before going forward. Great leaders are dealers in hope and encouragement. A lot of that comes back to how well do you know your team, their personalities, their characters, their attributes. How well do you know what it is that they do for your organization to bring about success? How do you speak into that type of a person and acknowledge what they've done? It's great to acknowledge who they are. It's also great to acknowledge what they've done. Those two things together bring hope and encouragement to your team. And I recommend that you do it on a regular basis. Zig Ziglar said it best. Motivation is like bathing. We all need it on a regular basis, and it's highly recommended. You can't motivate somebody once any more than you can take a bath once. Encouragement and hope are a form of motivation that you, as a great leader, are responsible for. Get busy with that. Spend your time with your people so you know how best to encourage them and to give hope to them. And you'll see the level rising, not only in your leadership and influence, but in the performance of your organization. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, or Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.